It seems inevitable that Wolverine is coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where he can finally be seen fighting alongside the biggest moneymakers in Hollywood. However you'd like to look at it, the timing of it all is very sus. Hugh Jackman left Wolverine not too long ago. On the one hand, you got the perfect send-off to Fox's entire X-Men team with the death of Wolverine. And on the other, you got a bunch of X-Men fans going, the idea of Hugh Jackman being replaced as Wolverine has basically got everyone divided on whether he should return or not because he killed it in the role. There's been a bunch of he said, she said stuff that's been brought up time and time again, but nothing's really been 100% legit about him. But what if he did come back? What if he was cast as the Wolverine in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Well, let's say that he did. He came back as Wolverine for the lastest time, and all the fans praise Hugh's return. There are undoubtedly great things that would come from this. The quintessential face of the X-Men for the past 18 years will finally be deemed an Avenger. We'd get a bunch of glorified still frames of the new team-up. Hoopla! Maybe these two duking it out to see an adamantium versus vibranium fight. Hoopla! And money shots galore in the trailer of these two tearing things up. Things would be great. But there are three huge problems of doing this. The first one is something you probably already know. The continuity within these films is gonna get thrown through a gas chamber. Marvel Studios is very protective with their continuity in their films. Some would even say that's what makes this series so much more successful than all the other superhero stuff going on. They're able to tell mini stories that are all so well knit into a bigger plot. They've had a few slip-ups here and there, but they've really done a bang-up job at keeping plot holes to a minimum with 18 whole films. So throwing him in here would be like a giant what the Wolverine was awesome in those X-Men movies, no doubt about that. But man, were they riddled with plot holes. Marvel wouldn't want anything to do with them because they spent so much time crafting their own world for over a decade. Just putting a Wolverine from another world in like that would have that foundation just come crashing down. Because you got a whole bunch of questions like, where was he during the first Avengers? Or why didn't the Avengers help in Days of Future Past? They could just go out and say,
oh yeah, this is the new Wolverine. He just looks the same.
But that somehow manages to sound even more confusing. The second problem kinda ties into the third one. Hugh Jackman stopped being the Wolverine for a reason. It wasn't really because he was tired of being Wolverine, it was because he was tired of having to become the Wolverine in between each movie. There are a plethora of actors who gain and lose weight for their roles. Christian Bale's one, Chris Hemsworth is one, and of course, Hugh Jackman is one. He went from being a little toned in 2012 to this monstrous husk of a man in 2013. So his muscular physique is always changing within every movie. All that working out, letting yourself go, then dieting seemingly ate out all the fun for him. Here's what he had to say when asked what the real reason was as to why he chose to leave.
It was a gut feeling. It's just, I don't know how many more egg white omelets I can eat.
So he'll always have that working against him. On top of that, he isn't getting any younger. If you add all those personal reasons to how packed Marvel's film schedule is for the coming years, he'd probably only be Wolverine for 1 or 2 movies. Then he just quit. Then Marvel would have to recast him. And Marvel doesn't want to do that. Why would they? They just got the X-Men back. Having Hugh come back just for one of their movies, and then having him replaced in the very next film Wolverine appears in, would be like throwing someone off the Golden Gate Bridge to teach them how to swim. And that's the third issue. Marvel has no incentive to cast him as Wolverine. Sure, there'd be a gigantic fan base loving the idea of his return, but from a filmmaking and business standpoint, because we know what they really care about, right? The whole thing would just bring them down. They'd damage their own story foundation, he'd only be around for one movie, and they'd have to recast him literally within the following year. He'd most likely be the only single actor they kept from those films. No one's screaming for James Marsden to return as Cyclops. They'd really just be rebooting and recasting all of the X-Men except for Wolverine. And again, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, if you're gonna reboot the X-Men, just reboot the X-Men. And as great as their Wolverine was, that includes him too. Listen, I loved Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. He had a wonderful arc in Logan, but they wrapped up everything they possibly could have for him. His character arc in those movies went full circle. In my opinion, they should cast a new Wolverine and tell us a new story about the X-Men that can be told for more than just a few years. But those are just my 2 cents on the whole discussion of Wolverine joining the MCU, and I want to hear what you have to say. Do you think it'd be a good idea to bring Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine? Or do you think we should just get a new Logan right from the get-go? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. While you're at it, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And for more of my videos, just click right here.